Hello everybody, I am back. I am back from Florida. We spent about 3 weeks out there. It was a big family trip, so it was my mum, my dad, my sister, my brother-in-law, my niece and me. Nice even number, 6 people. And yeah, it was wonderful. My hair looks significantly blonder, it's been that much in the sun, and I've got a nice healthy tan, which is quite nice because normally I just burn. So it was nice that I didn't get burnt on this holiday and that I've just got a nice all-round healthy glow now. It was a wonderful holiday. Today's Monday. We flew on Wednesday night, so I got in on Thursday morning. It did take me a couple of days to get back into a rhythm. I did wake up at 9 this morning, and normally I wake up at 8:30 for work, so but I do have the week until I'm back at work. It was a wonderful holiday spent with the family. So it was me, my sister, my brother-in-law, my niece and my mum and dad. So we had a 3-bedroom, it wasn't really a villa, more like a townhouse in Champions Gate in Devonport. So we weren't staying in Disney. I think one day we will go back and stay in Disney just because it's really good for the kids things, and we want my niece to experience that, possibly at Christmas, because I remember doing Christmas at Disney and it was just a wonderful magical experience. And so the idea of my niece being able to do that it's definitely something that we want to do for her at some point. Yeah, so I definitely recommend staying outside of Disney if you can and you're not that fussed about staying in Disney World. Yeah, there are some perks to staying on site, but it is a lot more expensive. So by getting a townhouse in Devonport, it was significantly cheaper than actually getting a hotel room on Disney property. And keep in mind that on Disney property, yeah, you've got your meal deals, but you're paying for a bedroom and a bathroom. We got it significantly cheaper to stay about half an hour outside of Disney World, and we essentially got a house. It was a 3-bedroom apartment essentially, with a big living area, kitchen with a washer and a dryer, and also the garage had been converted into a games room with a pool table and a TV. And I can't believe the deal that my sister managed to get on this place. It was absolutely amazing. So yeah, if you're not that fussed about staying on Disney site, I definitely recommend using Airbnb to find a villa or a townhouse, because it just worked out so well for us. We haven't actually stayed on Disney property in a very long time, because this is my 4th or 5th time going to Disney World. I know it's very, very privileged to be able to say that, but we do save up for these things, and we do try to give it a few years so that there's some new things. Like the last time we went was 2 years ago, and at that point the Moana water section at Epcot was being built while we were there, so that was something new to come back to. And the Tron ride was also brand new for us. They had just closed Splash Mountain when we were there last time, and the fact that that had been reopened as Tiana's Bayou Adventure was a really nice one as well. I'll move on to some of the things that we did to get through. As like a little tips and tricks section of this video basically. The My Disney app is absolutely fantastic. So once you've got your Magic Band, we actually were able to use some old bands in the park that were still connected to the app. So if you do have some old bands, you can very easily sync them up with the number on the back of the band. Unfortunately, my band actually did break while I was out there, but it was a good few years old. But you can actually add them to the wallet on Apple Watches. So when the band broke, I was still able to get into the parks just using this. And so with the wallet, you can do the double click to make sure that it's on there, but actually you don't have to do that. Because it's already loaded onto the watch, you don't actually have to open the wallet, which I thought was brilliant. You can just hold the watch up and it'll detect your ticket on the watch, and then you just use your finger and you're in. So for those who don't know, Disney World in Florida is made up of 4 parks. So you've got Magic Kingdom, which is the original one. There's Animal Kingdom, Epcot, and Hollywood Studios, which used to be known as MGM. I'm not quite sure when they turned it to Hollywood, because as it was MGM, they had the big Mickey sorcerer's hat at Hollywood Studios, but they have now removed that hat. Because I've been there a few times since they got rid of the hat, and since it has been rebranded as Hollywood Studios. I mean, my entire family still refer to it as MGM. Like, they were talking to people about MGM and they were just like, what? And they would just be there going, they mean Hollywood Studios. Yeah. So you've got your 4 main parks, and I'll say the longest entrance into any of the parks will be Magic Kingdom, because Magic Kingdom is on its own island, essentially, you can either get a monorail or a boat to Magic Kingdom from the car park. Yeah, you want to make sure you have everything on you in that car park before you get on the boat or the monorail, because the entrance to the park is on the island, basically. So yeah, if you don't have your ticket, you won't find out until you have to do your fingerprint at the entrance to the park. So make sure you have everything on you when you get to the car park. I will let you know that when it comes to the car parks, I think it was about $25–30 for parking at the parks, but it's transferable across all 4 parks. So if you want to go park hopping on a day, instead of getting like the buses and the transport and everything, if you are getting a car while you're in Florida, if you want to park hop, which is basically going to multiple parks in one day, if you pay for parking at one park, you can use it all day. All the car parks are themed based on where you are. So at Magic Kingdom there is a heroes and a villains parking lot, and basically you are encouraged to remember where you are parked. Obviously, a lot of the time I just use the Notes app on my phone just to make a note of the section, which was the character and the number row we were in, but the My Disney app does now have a section where you can save your parking information. Very, very handy if you are American and you obviously already have access to like the data and everything. But if you are visiting like me and you've turned off roaming because it's very expensive, all the theme parks you have access to free Wi-Fi, but you do not have access to that Wi-Fi in the car park. Basically the Wi-Fi disconnects basically pretty much as soon as you leave the park. Yeah, that's why I was using the Notes app rather than the My Disney app to save that information, because if I happened to forget what number row we were from getting on the tram back to the car, I would have had no way of getting back into the app because it would have disconnected. So by having it on my Notes app, it was easier to access. But yeah, I will also let you know that you can take food into the parks. A lot of people are not aware of this. You can't bring alcohol, but you can take food, and we always had bottles of water. We would put them in the freezer and the fridge back at the house, and we'd take those into the parks. We had basically a big food pack cooler situation going on, which we would take into the parks every day. We did have a buggy with us that my sister and my brother-in-law packed, because my niece is 7, but after a long day at the parks it was actually very handy to have a stroller with us. For first thing in the morning, it was a place where we could put all the bags, and then in the evenings it was handy for when my niece's legs stopped working because she'd been in the park all day. Even if your kid is a bit older, taking a stroller with you is actually a really good idea, especially if you're going to do it the way that we did in regards to taking food and drinks into the park, because it can be expensive to eat in the parks every single day. Admittedly, compared to 2 years ago, the prices actually have come down, but it can still get quite expensive and it can add up very quickly. So what we do is we would make up sandwiches. We take cheese, ham, chicken sandwiches into the parks with crisps and snacks. We do like little Tupperwares of grapes and apple slices with crisps and Cheetos, and so we just had a big thing of food that we would take in, and it was never a problem to take it in. And we'd just find a table somewhere, or sometimes we'd find a wall to sit on at about midday where we'd snack on food. We'd always make sure that my niece was fed before us, because when my niece is hungry, she's hangry. And so we knew we had to feed her if we wanted to carry on the day. So yeah, we did eat in the parks occasionally. There was a day at Epcot where it was me, my sister, my brother-in-law and my niece, and we were caught in a torrential downpour while waiting outside for the Frozen ride. It was hilarious. We were absolutely soaked. And then when we went into the aircon, we were absolutely freezing. We were soaked through and so cold. And then I sat in a wet patch on the ride, which meant that I was obviously going to get wet on the Frozen ride. Yes, you do get wet on the Frozen ride at Epcot. It's just a bit of a splash, but where I was obviously just the splash zone. So I sat in a puddle and then on one of the drops, the whole left-hand side of me got wet, and I was already soaked. So by that time we were just like, okay, we are, because I think the sun come out a little bit, but it was a day of rain, and so there came a point it was just like, we are not going to sit outside and eat. We are going to go to the America section of the World Showcase and sit inside and get some hot food. Mind you, it was still the aircon going, so we were still cold, but the hot food did warm us up. I had a very, very nice burger. at the American food court in Epcot, so I definitely recommend that. And because we were staying outside and we were staying in Champions Gate, there's lots of shopping and food in Champions Gate, and so we actually did about, did we do 3 trips to Applebee's, which was such good food. It was relatively cheap for what it was, huge portions obviously. There was actually a night, I think it was our 2nd time going to Applebee's, where my mum and my sister shared the appetiser and had it as a main because it was just so huge. So yeah, if you are used to the smaller portion sizes, don't be afraid to ask for one meal between 2 or 3 people. It is very big portion sizes, and I'll admit the amount of sugar in the food. I was so bloated when I got home. I gained just over ½ stone on this holiday. It is very hard to avoid the sugar in the food out there because it's a preservative, and so America just puts a lot of sugar into their food, and when they list the calories, it's just like, I could make this at home for significantly less calories. It's ridiculous, and this is no shame on American food. I guess it partly is because there's a lot of ingredients in America that are actually illegal in Europe. A lot of things come with sugar in it, so be prepared for that. Extremely tasty food. Like, as I said, we went out to Applebee's about 3 times and it was beautiful. We went to a steakhouse as well, which was absolutely incredible. I went for the smallest steak and it was just the right size for me. So I don't understand how anybody could have a steak bigger than the one I had. I ate a lot of good food, but I did gain over ½ stone on a 3-week holiday. And that was even with walking every day. Admittedly, I didn't walk as much every day as I thought I would. I think it's because there's a lot of standing in queues. Generally average around 10,000 steps a day. I think the most I did in one day was about 16,000 steps, and the least amount I did was 10,000 steps. Admittedly, for me and my niece, because I don't drink coffee, and obviously my niece doesn't drink coffee, but my niece is a big Yorkshire tea drinker, and so we did take Yorkshire tea with us because it's significantly cheaper than it is to buy Yorkshire tea in the international aisle at the supermarket out there. Just like going into the England section of the International Showcase at Epcot, we were joking with some people in there that it's cheaper to fly to England and buy jam and shortbread than it is to buy it at the Epcot Pavilion. Yeah, we did meet some wonderful people. There were some great people that really, really made the holiday so good. There was a point when we went to do some crazy golf. I think it was at the Fantasia Crazy Golf. I think the rules have changed slightly since the last time we were there, because we definitely played the Fantasia lot 2 years ago when we went. In the evening, I remember us playing when it was dark, and when we went up to them, they said, oh, actually, we stopped that at 4 o'clock for people with Disney bands. And we were just like, oh. And they were just like, you know what? It is actually quite quiet tonight, and we will let you play. We were just like, we were insisting on giving them money, and they were just like, just going. We couldn't believe it. I don't want to get anybody into trouble for doing that, so I won't mention the names, but I will say we were incredibly thankful. We did try to give them a tip, but they weren't allowed to accept it. There was a section of the My Disney app that allows you to thank people, where we were able to thank the people that allowed us to play. Anything on Disney property, a lot of it you can access with your Disney band. So if we'd arrived before 4 o'clock, we would have been able to play for free anyway, because it was part of the Disney ticket. Yeah, they were just very, very nice people that really made our night, and so we thank the workers of the Fantasia Crazy Golf for making such a wonderful night for us. We laughed a lot. I got wet in a section what squirts water at you and we were like the personal cheerleaders for the 2 people in front of us. Some wonderful people really made our holiday. What we did realise though is that, because my niece has adapted saying have a magical day, because we heard it in Disney so much last time we were there, and they've stopped saying it. I should have asked why, because they used to say it when they took your money off you when you went into the car park, when you paid for parking. They used to go and have a magical day as you drove off, but now they just said have a fun day. I mean, you're just like, where's the magical day? And so when they said have a fun day, my niece from the back of the car would go, have a magical day, as we drove past. We said it to so many people when we were out there. It's just part of our language now to say have a magical day whenever we saw anybody. And to be honest, it brought a smile to everybody's faces. So I hope that they implement that back in, of saying have a magical day to everybody, because it was just such a lovely thing to hear as you were entering the parks. And so the fact that they don't say it anymore was a bit... But we'll I'll keep saying it. Another thing I'll say is that even though there are no restrooms in the car park, there are restrooms outside the entrance to all the parks. And there was one day when my niece did have a bit of a toilet emergency, and so my sister and my niece rushed to get on the tram to get to the park entrance. And as they were running, they were just like, we're not boarding anymore. And my sister was there going, we have a toilet emergency. They were just like, okay, get on now. And they went up while we stayed behind to get on the next one. There was a day when we were all split up. I think it was that same day actually. I think my sister and my niece had gone on to get to the restrooms. My dad and my brother-in-law got on the tram, but it was like morning, so it was quite busy. This was for Magic Kingdom as well, because I remember we all split up on the other side. And then me and my mum got on the tram behind my dad and my brother-in-law. But then when we went through security, my dad had been flagged going through the metal detector, and so he hadn't gone through yet. So we were reunited with him, but my brother-in-law had gone on the monorail with my sister and my niece, because we managed to be in the first section of the Tiana Bayou Adventure queue, because there's 2 rides in Disney at the moment that have a virtual queue, which is the Tiana ride, which is the update to Splash Mountain, and the Tron ride. We had 2 attempts to get onto Tron. Originally, me, my dad and my brother-in-law tried to get into the queue for it in an afternoon slot, and the estimated queue time for us was going to be about 5ish, and then that got pushed forward, and we realised we weren't going to be in the park when that queue time finally arrived, so we just cancelled it, because basically you have to go into the My Disney app. They released the virtual queue at 7 AM, and I think it was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon as well, so you just have those 2 sections. I want to say there was a point when they did open up an evening one, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, so you had 2 attempts to get into that virtual queue. So we did find that by going for the 7 AM one, we actually got quite a good queue slot. It was actually one of the first ones for the park, I think. And so we rushed. As I said, it was that morning where we got split up and we were rushing to get in because we thought we were going to miss our slot. By the time we'd gone into the park, because you basically have like an hour in order to join the queue for your section, and we were over that hour by the time we actually got to the ride, because basically it was just so busy that morning. So by the time we got into the car park, it was like, I think we had about half an hour to get there. Just like, this is cutting it a bit fine. And then obviously we were split up getting into the park as well. And so I remember when we got the message from my brother-in-law saying we got there after our slot, but they allowed us on. And we were just like, oh, so we'll just go in to see what happens. And so when me, my mum and my dad arrived at the Tiana queue, we just were honest with them, and we just like, we had this slot, we know we're a bit late, we got held up in security, and they were just like, just come on, no, it's fine. So I think it's more of a guide than anything, so as long as you're there within a reasonable amount of time, like I imagine if you were like 3 hours late for it, they might not, but the fact that we were about half an hour late to our slot wasn't that big a deal, and we basically walked onto the ride. So if you do have a virtual queue slot and you're late for it, still go to the ride. There's a good chance they will actually still let you on. The Moana section was absolutely wonderful. My niece had so much fun in it. It's amazing how water can entertain a kid for so long. I have so many videos of my niece just playing in random sections of water on the holiday. But yeah, the Moana section is really cool. I cannot imagine what it's like to be an Imagineer for Disney, because it's insane what they can do. By the next time we go, which is again, it's probably going to be another few years, they are in the process of closing down Dinosaur at, where is Dinosaur? Is that Animal Kingdom? Yeah, because me and my mum did go on the ride, and we actually had really good fun on Dinosaur. But when we came off, we realised that the photo section wasn't available, so we couldn't scan to get photos. We don't actually remember the camera going off, so I have done a little message through the My Disney app just to say, we did this ride, we didn't get any photos, you know, are they still happening? But it wasn't until I got back that I realised they are actually in the process of closing it down and replacing it. So that's something new to look forward to. And I don't know what other rides, I'll need to look it up, I don't don't know what other rides or any new things that are happening, but as I said, you know, we did get to do a few new things, and it was our first time doing the Ratatouille ride, because the last few times that we've been, it's just always been so incredibly busy. We did manage to get into a queue for it this time, which claimed to be about 50-55 minutes, and it ended up being more like half an hour. It is a ride that tends to go down a lot. Same with the Frozen ride, actually. We noticed there were quite a few times when those rides seemed to be down, so we don't know what was going on. I was the only one that wanted to do Rock and Roller Coaster, so I got in the single rider queue for it, and while we were in it, they kept saying you could be in the ride for as long or even longer than the regular queue, and the queue was supposed to be about an hour. I think I was in that queue for about 40 minutes, so it did actually work out quite well for me to go into the single rider queue for that. I think it's mainly because it just depends on how many slots they need to fill up on the roller coaster. So if they've got like a party of 3, they'll do 2, 1, and then they'll grab 1 from the single rider queue. So it just depends on how many of those single slots they need to fill up. But don't be scared to use the single rider queue, because I felt like it did make a difference in the queue time. Even if they do say that it could be as long or longer, generally I feel like there's still quite a few odd couples going on. I feel like it did make quite a big difference in how long I was waiting for. I've been talking forever, so I'm going to shut up now. Yeah, just a couple of tips and tricks. Don't be afraid to take food and drink. Obviously don't take any alcohol in, but you can take in your own food, your own water, if you want to save a bit of money. Also, when saving money, don't be afraid to go a little bit outside of Disney World. As I said, we stayed in Davenport. There was a night when we went to Kissimmee Old Town. It was such good fun to do. We saw all the old cars, and we did a little bit of like mooching around the shops and stuff. But there was also like a theme park down there, which we never actually went in, but I imagine that would actually be quite a good night out as well, because we did it on an evening and everything was still going, so that's something you can do. And I think it was probably my dad's favourite part of the trip. My dad and my brother-in-law looked like they had so much fun at downtown Kissimmee, because it was just the old cars. Well, there was a Herbie down there. There was a DeLorean as well. Like that was a really, really good night, and we had a really, really nice ice cream down there as well, and my niece had a milkshake that was bigger than her head. But that was also the night that we discovered that she might actually enjoy Tower of Terror. That was awesome! Which is probably one of our favourite rides. I actually found the film on YouTube yesterday, and so I went and watched it. So I'm going to end this video by doing a little request to Disney Plus. Please restore the Tower of Terror film and put it on streaming, because it is such a good film. It was the first ever film based on a ride. It was made for TV, and apparently there's rumours that there's going to be a new film made of Tower of Terror with Scarlett Johansson. I'm just there thinking, don't worry about that. Just get the original film made in the 90s and restore it and put it on streaming, because the version I found on YouTube was obviously ripped from like a VHS tape. So thank you so much for watching this video, and if you've watched all my other videos, thank you as well. But yeah, I'm gonna go have a cup of tea. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. Hello to the new subscribers, it is wonderful to see you. Stay safe, I love you all. Goodbye.